So without further delay, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Directly to my right, we have Lloyd Hanson. And I'll give you each the chance to introduce yourselves further. But Lloyd Hanson, to his right, Jeremy Lombardo. And to his right, we have David Onyett-Jeffries and John Poos to his right. And at the end of the panel, we have Alan Willison. So welcome, thank you all for coming. And just to get the discussion started, I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves a little bit more thoroughly, more than just your name. So I'd like to ask you to share an overview of your career story, telling us a little bit about how you became interested in what it is that you're doing right now, and where you started your career, and how you got to where you are today. Including your educational background. So we'd like to hear about your time at York. So Lloyd, would you mind starting us off?
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Well, my career at York started back in the late 70s, and I was just saying to Liz, I left here in 1980, and it doesn't look like the place that I left. A lot of development is going on. But at York, I learned a lot of things, and one of the things in the finance economics area that I learned was never refuse an opportunity. And I think at least that's my takeaway, if I have anything to give you here today, is always grasp the opportunities that's allowed to you. So when I was at York, I had a part-time job with the Canadian Red Cross Society, and back and forth from here downtown every day, a few times a day or a few times a week and so on. Went on for a while. And when I finished York, they offered me a position, temporary position for 3 months. Long story short, I left 15 years later as a director for the blood services, the Canadian Blood Services, which is close to about $1 billion budget at the time. So, and I grasped every opportunity. I learned a lot of things while I was there. I moved to Ottawa, spent 12 years in Ottawa with the Red Cross. Came back to Toronto, and I joined the telecom, Rogers. I worked with one of the toughest CEOs in Canada, Ted Rogers at the time. And I learned a lot from him, and also the mayor-elect John Tory. He was my boss for a while also. We had a good time. And from there, I moved back to Bell, and I worked with Bell mergers and acquisitions for about 4 years. Then I decided to go back to the not-for-profit sector. And that's also a very interesting sector, and you should take a look at that sector, not just the profit sector, but also the NPOs. There are fantastic opportunities there. It's a different type of finance, different type of accounting, but it can be very rewarding. So today I'm a manager for Canada's largest children's mental health organization, mainly working with kids with autism. We manage the program on behalf of the government of Ontario. We've got about 700 employees, more psychologists, psychiatrists, and social workers working with all these kids. And I found that to be extremely rewarding too. So you can, with economics, finance, and I did pursue accounting significantly on the side. There are many opportunities out there for everybody. So in a nutshell, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Jeremy?
Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy. Before attending York, I did a diploma course at Seneca College, which was International Business and Administrative Studies. From there I came to York to do a double major in business and economics. Quickly realized that the business courses were doubled up from what I'd already taken, except they cost twice as much. So I decided to take something else. I ended up finishing with a double major in economics and philosophy. My time at York was filled with studies and extracurricular activities. I was involved with the Philosophy Students Association. We worked with sending students to other campuses to present papers, also to apply for funding from many of the different funding bodies within the university to put on events and to publish a journal and that sort of thing. When I graduated from university, I attended almost every single one of these career workshops that they have, so I highly recommend it because it was really helpful in transitioning and preparing that resume and that covering letter, and preparing myself for behavioral style questions for interviews that I was going to be doing. I broke the first rule, and that's not to take the first offer. I went down a course that was probably not the right path for me. I'm one of those people that studied economics in university, and my interests were something else. My passions were something else, and I've been working in finance for the past 6 years. I started off at a company called GMAC/Ally. At GMAC, what I did was I was working in a customer service capacity, representing the business interests with respect to their leased vehicles and financed vehicles that were in car accidents, so whether they were written off. So I was negotiating settlements with insurance companies, which was a great opportunity. From there, I moved on to consumer underwriting, and that was essentially when you go into a car dealership to buy a car, they submit an application to a team that reviews your creditworthiness and determines whether or not they're going to buy the car for you and allow you to pay the company slowly over time. Then from there, I was pulled into a newly developing team, project management, project coordination sort of capacity, where we were building and developing user interfaces to do business with our dealer customers, where they would submit those requests, those contracts for funding. From that point, I moved on to the settlement team within the commercial underwriting, and that's fleet financing. So essentially what this company was doing was making money on both sides of the transactions. They would pay the dealerships for the they would pay the original equipment manufacturers for the cars, and that way the dealerships would have inventory for sale, and then the customers would come in and buy the car, and then they would get income off of that side of the transaction as well. From that point, the company that I was working for was purchased by one of the large banks, and we were given the opportunity to jockey for position and find a better fit for ourselves within this new organization. So I've experienced a lot. The time that I spent working in finance was great. I spent the last year and a half working with one of the big banks, learning all their business from frontline operations, from dealing with mortgage maintenance to client card activity, problem solving, troubleshooting, de-escalation, a lot of customer service stuff, which in the banking world is really another word for sales. And what I would recommend for anybody that is interested in banking, to really have a solid picture of what you want to do, what your career is going to look like, because there's a lot of segments within banking, and what I found is that the left hand doesn't really know what the right hand is doing. So if you want to work on the left hand side of the business, figure out entry strategies on that side, and see, because within finance, a foot in is not a foot in. Foot in, it's a very, very competitive business, and you need to demonstrate that you're committed to the industry. And if you are, and you're passionate about it, and you're willing to do what it takes, it can be very rewarding. So with that, I'm going to pass on to my colleague.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the Career Center plug. All right, David.
So my name's Onyett-Jeffries. My time at York was actually relatively short. I did my master's degree here in economics, and as much as I would have wanted to be involved more in sort of the campus life and campus atmosphere, I pretty much was just holed in my office for pretty much in my entire tenure here down in Berry Hall. So actually relatively little exposure other than the courses. I view myself as someone who's been pretty lucky through the career, looking at the sense that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Like, I've worked hard going through school, you guys are going and working on your degrees, and you're putting that preparation in there, so when an opportunity presents itself, hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of it. For me, I've always just had an interest in economics because it's how people react to incentives, and you can apply it pretty much across any area. So after undergrad, I had an opportunity to go to grad school, and I did a TAing and like some lecturing and stuff with like the first year courses, and just, you know, the opportunity to go and continue learning, which I wanted to do, and not really actually have it cost anything was outstanding. So, look into the bursaries and the scholarships and everything that are available if you're ever considering grad school, because there are plenty of opportunities and it's excellent. I was initially considering doing a PhD, but then I decided that I probably should start making money because I wanted to get married and start having a family. Again, sort of a lucky opportunity came up. Ontario Ministry of Finance was looking to hire somebody who essentially was me right out of school, so that kind of worked out quite nicely. In my time there, working in the public sector is a very interesting place, and you can get exposed to a large variety of work, but there is a degree of tedium that can come to it. But the beauty is, again, because there can be varied work, opportunities present themselves. So again, you can sort of jump at an opportunity if it's there, just as something different, something interesting. As a result of that, just sort of being open to do anything that sort of came my way. I ended up being involved in a team of about 10 people that wrote a budget. It's one of the more secretive ones. They introduced the HST and all that stuff. I'm sure you read about, like sales taxes and courses. So I did that for a year. After the budget came out, I got an opportunity to go move into the banking world, working in finance. So I was an economist for RBC Capital Markets. My time there was actually kind of fascinating because it was the fall. So I started there in 2009. It's the actual end of the Great Recession was June 2009. I started May 2009. So I was in a position where I was trying to put context and explain what was going on to people when literally nobody had any idea what was going on. So I actually was one of those talking heads. So if you ever watch the news, you'd see sort of the head there explaining what the movements in the Canadian dollar and what this data means. Quite frankly, no one knew. Everything was just completely up in the air. So it's kind of fascinating to be involved in that sort of atmosphere and realize that what was considered normal isn't. People always had the rules of thumb that they sort of held on to and saying, well, this is happening, so it should mean this, and that stuff doesn't materialize. So from a student intellectual standpoint, from a learning standpoint, you're essentially relearning economic theory. You're readjusting theories that exist to see why is this happening now. And ultimately you're breaking down, you go back to your first year economics courses, supply and demand. You're going back to those rudimentary elements to try and figure out, okay, so what is, backtracking, what is actually causing, what's happening here? So that was fascinating. So I was there for about 5 years. And again, another opportunity came up, and so now I'm just on the, so essentially buy side and sell side is what how they refer to finance firms. Sell side is a bank that's trying to provide services to you. Buy side are the people who are having the services provided to them, so the people who are actually the investment managers. So right now I'm at a wealth management firm, and my role, it's very similar to what I was doing, but it's more investment focused and internal. So rather than telling everybody else in the world what's going on and trying to put context for them, it's trying to put things in context for our portfolio managers to explain, okay, so the employment data is this, or data points come out. So this morning we have things, initial claims, consumer spending in the US, new home sales. It's trying to explain, okay, what does this mean for the direction of the US economy, for the Canadian economy, as well as worldwide? And how does this impact portfolio allocations and everything along those lines? But yeah, that's essentially the gist of my career. A lot of it is just sort of opportunities presenting themselves and being able to sort of jump at the opportunities.
And it sounds like you've seen a lot. And John, I'd like to invite you to answer the question.
Good afternoon, and I'll try and stay close to the mic because I'm not suffering at the moment, unfortunately. From the sounds of it, I'm the oldest grad here. Graduated economics 79, and I'll go through my history or my career. It might take up quite a while. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have any advice for you because, frankly, what I did was simply follow the doors that opened for me. And currently my role is I'm Vice President Pensions and Benefits for Loblaws, Shoppers Drug Mart, Weston Foods, the largest single private sector employer in Canada. We have about 220,000 direct employees in the country. No bank, Tim Hortons, we employ more people than any of those. So it's a huge job, and it started more or less by luck. I graduated in '79. While I was here, I was just here for fun, frankly, and just was very entertained. I was living off campus, and my roommate said to me, "Why don't we just go write the LSATs for fun?" Who writes the LSATs for fun? But we wrote it for fun one Saturday afternoon or one Saturday morning, and I scored well enough that the university started to ask me to join, to come to their schools. Ended up going to Queens, got my law degree. Between that, I got married between my undergrad and law school. And in law school, and I had no intention of being a lawyer, I can tell you that up front. I was a career student, I was going to be. Had my first child in law school, and that convinced me that I needed to make some money. So started a family, came out of law school, practiced law, called the bar in '84, practiced law for 3 years in private practice with a very up-and-coming firm, and did a lot of, because in both law school and here, I had a bit of a finance bent. In law school, I took tax predominantly, so really got a finance orientation. When I went to private practice, started practicing M&As, did a lot of banking work on transactional, big CIBC transactions. Saw that the firm I was with was imploding and needed to get out. Ended up taking a job in-house with Stelco, which at the time was the largest steel company in Canada, and was happened to be right across the road from where I was working at the time. Long story short, halfway through my career, and again, I was a part of a team of 4 lawyers at the time. About 5 or 6 years later, I was running the department, and the CFO came to me and said, "Well, you have this sort of finance orientation. Why don't you start sitting on the pension committee and participate with that?" 2 years later, I was asked if I could chair the pension committee. So I ended up, at that point, having dual responsibility. I ran the pension group, and I ran the legal group. Thereafter, you probably all know, Stelco went bankrupt in 2004, and I needed to make a career decision. I was actually sitting in a place in Italy when I got a text message from someone asking, a text, I guess that was wrong back then, it was an email back then, whether I'd be interested in taking on the Nortel pension responsibility, which would have cut my legal career off. So after 17 years of practicing law, I'm now invited to look at a pension responsibility. I came back 3 weeks later, I had the Nortel job, and I ran their pension group for 5 years, up until their bankruptcy. There's a pattern here. And the Nortel job, I had responsibility for the investment oversight of something in the order of 70 different pension plans in 60 different countries, total AUM, assets under management, of about $12 billion, not counting all the benefit programs and the other stuff that we would be involved in. So Nortel goes bankrupt. Again, I have to make a career decision, and I enter the public sector for a period. I end up running half of OMERS, which you know is the largest, well, you may not know, it's the second largest pension plan in Canada. One side of the business really does the investments, the other side of the business, plan design, contributions, and I ran that side of the business. It sounds very, very interesting, but frankly, I only had a team of about 4 people. But it was really trying to manage a board which was completely at odds with each other. It's a jointly sponsored pension plan. Employees on one side, employers on the other side. They never agree on anything. My job was to make them not kill each other. And so we ended up, after 2 years of that job, my former boss at Nortel, who was now the president and CEO at George Weston Limited, called me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing what I used to do, with him now at Weston, which is where I joined 3 years ago and continue to do that today. The additional responsibility at Weston is that it's not only pensions, but it's also benefits. And I got to tell you, benefits is a whole complete different animal. But it is, it just seemed that doors along the way kept opening, and I never burned any bridges. So having good relationships, developing important clients, customers, and doing a good job is recognized. It's not only recognized within your own companies, wherever you might land, it's also recognized outside of. I would never have gotten an Ortel job if I had not been recognized as somewhat of a pension expert, even though I was really a lawyer at the time. So it's a question of interacting, getting out there in the industry in which you now participate, and landing and following whatever doors open for you.
Okay, you started by saying you didn't have any advice to share, but that sounds pretty good to me. Alan?
Thank you, Liz. I think I'm probably the oldest grad here.
Oh, really?
We'll have to compare birthdays.
Okay, 79 I graduated.
Well, from a 4-year? You're an undergrad?
3-year undergrad.
3-year, okay. Well, I graduated with a 3-year undergrad in '77, and then I decided to come back and do the 4th year, which took me 5 years to do the 4th year because I did it part-time.
All right, maybe she's got it organized this way.
So I think she's got it by age, maybe. Anyway, a bit like John, I guess I came to York sort of because I wanted to have some fun. I came to York because I wasn't quite sure what else I wanted to do at that time. Guidance counselors were practically non-existent in high school for me. I come from the dark ages in the educational system. So when I said I wanted to come to York, he said, yeah, you'll fit there. And I said, what should I do? He said, well, economics looks good. You like math. Your math marks are good. Do economics. I'm in. That's how I came to York and did economics. The only time I came to the main campus is to drink, because I went to Glendon, down at Bayview and Lawrence, the bilingual campus, which I really enjoyed, mostly because it's a small campus, very intimate, very tight. I don't know what the population was then, but very, very small. And you pretty much knew everybody, which worked for me because I was a small town guy at the time. So I did that. And then from there, I ended up in General Motors. I'll come back to that a little bit. So I have some interface with GMAC, quite a bit actually during my career. I also have some interface with the legal staffs, both inside the company as well as outside. So I know a little bit about lawyers. And I also did quite a bit of work with banks. So I know a bit about bankers too. So I don't know anything about Red Cross. I'm sorry, nothing about that. And telecommunications, Rogers, I pay a bill every month. That's all I know. A big one. So I worked for General Motors for 32 years, and then that job wound up because the factory I was in as the finance manager closed up in Oshawa. And I was almost old enough to retire. I had enough service to retire. They put me on layoff for a little bit, and I got a sweetheart defined benefit pension, which is what I'm on now from General Motors. Then I got a call because I knew people in General Motors. I had known quite a few people. That's where I made my career. I'm kind of non-traditional to everybody beside me here because I started in General Motors, I finished in General Motors. Nobody does anything like that anymore, I understand, I realize. But one of my General Motors colleagues who also lost her job ended up in the UK as the general manager for a cosmetics company. The men probably won't know in the room. The ladies might have heard of Coty, C-O-T-Y is the name of the cosmetics company. That factory in Kent, southeast England, that made all kinds of cosmetics. I knew nothing about cosmetics. I know quite a bit now. I see a smile or two from the room. In fact, 32 years in the car business, I thought, what am I doing? She made me the offer to go and basically do the same job I'd done in General Motors. And I thought, I don't know anything about cosmetics. Well, it turns out beans are beans. And when you're a bean counter, you can count them no matter where they are, what they're created, what product creates them. So I did that for a couple of years. It was a contract job, and the job wound up, and I haven't worked since. I've been retired, just playing around, traveling, and having a good time. How did I get into General Motors? Well, my hobby is cars. motorcycles and cars. I have 10W30 in my blood. My dad was a mechanic, and the only way to know my dad was to work in the garage and spin spanners with him and do things like that. So General Motors being Oshawa's favorite employer, and me growing up in Oshawa, I decided I wanted to be there. So I started as a summer student shooting screws on the line and building pickup trucks. That's what I did. And I did that 2 summers, which made me prove to me that's something I don't want to do the rest of my life. So the 3rd summer, I became a salaried student working in the finance staff. And that apparently I made a mark of some sort, and they brought me back the following summer. They invited me back, and I worked in another clerical function in accounts receivable. Then I decided, or a buddy of mine talked me into going to Europe and just bumming around Europe. Can I say that? Bumming around Europe?
You can say that.
Thank you. For a few months, taking some time out. So we did that. And while I was over there, I got a call from my previous supervisor in General Motors in the accounts receivable department. He said, "Hey, if you want a full-time job, come on back. I like you. I think you can do a job for me." I didn't know what else to do. I was hair down to here and a beard out to here, and I thought, yeah, I better take it. So I did. And as some of my colleagues beside me have said, never turn down an opportunity. Never close the door. Never slam a door shut. Look through it first, and that's what I did. And within, I guess it was about 5 years, I had gone from basically payroll clerk in the olden days when they used to do payroll by hand, marking time cards and things like that. Gone from payroll clerk to finance manager, and had a lot of great experiences along the way. Basically worked entirely in operations finance, either manufacturing side or marketing side my entire career, because that's what I like to do. It was the closest I could be to the product, which is where I wanted to be. Lots of budgeting and forecast responsibility, lots of pricing responsibility, and some treasury input as well, treasury interface, and as well, I did get a little bit of time with the corporate affairs staff, about a year or so when NAFTA was being negotiated, and I was lucky enough to travel around North America and Mexico with the Canadian government, helping the Canadian government get the best deal for NAFTA. So I don't know how much you know about that, but if you don't like it, I'm sorry. We did the best we could. And then Cody, after GM, Cody was a similar type job in a factory. I was the controller for the factory. Budget responsibility for about 250 million pounds of expense related to that factory. And that's it.
Okay, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you all for sharing your stories. We've got a wealth of experience and expertise on this panel today. My next question for you all is, what specific advice would you give to students and new graduates about what they can start doing today to start gaining experience? They hear often that experience is how you get opportunities, and but you need experience to get the experience. So what do you think that students can start doing right now to start gaining experience in this field? Alan, would you like to start, and we'll move this way?
I think they've taken the first step. They've come to this meeting.
There you go, yes.
Okay. The other thing is that this is a great booklet. I've been sitting on the side reading this before we started today, and this is great stuff. So if you haven't read it, take a look all the way through, I would suggest. As I mentioned, I got little to nothing in counseling, and there's a lot of support in here. I think one thing that was really important for me is understanding personally where my interests lie. I was lucky. I guess maybe my interests were strong enough to carry me. I knew I wanted to be in automotive, and that's the only thing that I wanted to do, so that carried me. But there were times when I kind of wondered, should I have done something different? The company, the General, actually offered us Myers-Briggs, which we all took, which helped me confirm that I was doing the right thing. And they also gave us some career counseling, personality analysis stuff, and it actually told me I was doing the right thing as well. But if it's available now and the school is helping you get that knowledge and information, jump on it. Just go for it. I would suggest.
Okay. And if anyone does have any questions about Career Center services, I'm happy to talk to you after the panel about that as well. And we do actually have a workshop that focuses on, or that's based on the Myers-Briggs. So if that's of interest, it's available. So come talk to me after. John?
I guess I'm not a great example, because frankly, when I followed my career, being a pensions person would have been, in my mind, like watching paint dry. I couldn't have believed I'd be ending up doing this. I would have thought I'd be doing something what I considered much more exciting. Turns out this is a pretty exciting field, but I would never have known that. Equally, after I came out of economics, there's a whole great area of finance-related investment management, banking, that I really had no idea existed. And had I known existed, would have been financially a much more lucrative path for me than I ended up taking. But having said that, I didn't know it was there. So I do commend Alan for following his passion. I didn't have one, so I really didn't know where I'd end up. I ended up where I ended up. Just follow the doors. But if you can follow your passion, clearly it makes career a whole lot more rewarding. In the end, I'm passionate about what I do now, but it wasn't something that if I was sitting in the audience today that I'd tell you that I'd be doing this 35 years later, or whatever it's been since I left York. It would have been probably, I wouldn't even known this existed, this job, frankly, 35 years ago. It's just followed the doors. That's what I did.
Okay, so you can follow the doors to the types of experiences that you might start getting right now. Yeah, David?
Well, realistically, sort of building on that, if I were to give any sort of advice to people looking to gain any sort of experience whatsoever, it's really to just not be a one-track mind, especially out of school. There may be something that ultimately you see yourself doing, where let's say you want to work in investment banking and mergers and acquisitions. Those opportunities may not exist initially, but you sort of keep that target there and think, okay, what do I need to do to get there? Or what other opportunities can I possibly have? And you'll gain exposure to sort of, as he said, unaware of the fact that investment management and banking positions exist. By assuming that I want to be a bank economist and not closing your mind to anything else, you're really limiting yourself in terms of opportunities. And the reality is, when you're in school, you're competing with a bunch of other people who don't have any real experience. So you shouldn't look down your nose in terms of any position. There's always opportunities, and even if it seems something that's fairly mundane, that maybe doesn't sound as sexy as investment banking or working in high finance, all roads aren't like a straight line. There are many opportunities, and by even getting something on your resume and showing that you excel at what you're doing, gaining a decent reputation, doors open. I think, as pretty much this panel can attest, that doors open. If you are passionate about what you do, you tend to be better at what you do, and it becomes across very much so. So again, in terms of gaining experiences, don't be a one-track mind. Be aware that there's tons of opportunities available that you just aren't even aware of. Do your research, see what else is available, and sort of, again, there is no one specific path to an ultimate destination. It's curvy roads, it's dead ends. It's how you deal with those situations.
Jeremy?
Okay. Well, I, for one, got a serious reality check leaving university with a sense of entitlement, thinking that my degree in economics was going to guarantee me a job. And the first piece of advice I would do is to shake that attitude or mentality if you have it now. And along with that workshop that was discussed before about really getting to know what you want out of a career, what would be the right fit, there's a great book called What Color Is Your Parachute? They issue that book every year, updated with different job type hunt resources. The thing is we're stuck in a catch-22 when we graduate from university, because most of us, the types of jobs that we did aren't anywhere close to the skill set that is needed for the jobs that we want. And the 4 years that we spent in university gets glossed over. Okay, they have it. Now, what else have you done? And it's that what else have you done that's crucial and important. So when we couple that with really understanding ourselves and knowing what we want, we need to walk a mile in the employer's shoes, so to speak. So what is it that they're looking for and what is it that they want? Because the hiring process is just as scary for them than it is for someone else, because they have, they're reactive to HR. HR allows them to increase their head count, and they need to do their best to make sure that they have that right fit, and they have to take time out of their busy schedule to meet with different candidates, and time is money, right? So this process is just as scary. So we need to figure out what is it that they want. So if you know what job that you're looking for, then it's about acquiring positions that you can leverage that experience and show them that you have experience doing those particular things. The reason why I'm speaking in general, because it really depends on what you want out of your career, right? It's really, really competitive, and I got burned, right? I was the kind of guy that everything always sort of worked out for, so I had that mentality, it's going to be okay. Then when I went to my first couple interviews, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's great, your school experience is fine, but we need somebody that's done this job before. We need somebody that we can take them and plug them right in, right? I don't care about your ambitions, can you do the job, where have you done it, demonstrate relevant experience, right? And like, especially within finance, and if you want a job in a bank, I would highly recommend Canadian Securities. A lot of kids have these out of high school these days, and it demonstrates commitment to the industry. So it shows your manager that even if the job doesn't require it, that you've already demonstrated that you're committed and you're here to play. Right, so I don't know, with that I'll pass.
Okay. Lloyd?
Good. Thank you. Actually, my advice is similar to David's. You know, be passionate, but also be wide open, because a lot of jobs that exist today didn't exist existed when I left university 30 years ago. So be passionate about learning, you know, new stuff. I recall we had a similar session. It wasn't as sophisticated and as formal as this when I was here then, but we used to have the banks and the big companies coming in campus to recruit, and IBM was the big one at the time. And we were told, you're in economics, get a pair of gray slacks, a navy blue blazer, and a tie, a white shirt, and you've got a job at IBM. Well, you know, we know what happens to IBM subsequently, right? So, you know, there was no Apple and no all of these telecom companies rotating around, right? So the key, be passionate, but also there's no bad jobs out there. Don't refuse anything. Whatever opportunity you get, the only time you know it's a bad job is because you have done it and you know you don't want to do it. That tells you that it's a bad job, you know. But
you have no idea what you don't like until you actually realize what you don't like.
Exactly, right? But you know, be an investment banker, or in mergers or acquisitions and all that type of stuff. I mean, you know, it's nice, but it's too early for you to start thinking about those things, right? What you need to do is to learn as much as you can, keep an open mind, passionate about learning, right? Today, in my responsibilities today, I employ a lot of new grads and not so new grads, and a lot of them want to change everything on day one. And you know, I've got to keep up with them because you know we're working on Microsoft products that are changing every 6 months. You know, and I've got to be working along with these guys. But some of them, they're trying to rewrite the system on day one, and they realize that they haven't learned the basics, right? So, passionate about learning, get as much information as you can, and don't close the doors, keep them open, and it will take you there. You will eventually get there.
Who would like to start?
I could talk to this one.
Sure.
When it came to the job that I had applied for, working within customer service for a finance company, grades did not even come up at all. I know that that's not, there's a lot of graduate recruitment programs, and if those are the types of roles that you're interested in, that's when they want to see transcripts with your application. But when it came to the jobs that I went to, the types of interviews, it's like, oh, you graduated, and that was the end of the conversation about university. My 4 years were summed up in about 3 seconds, right? So it was like, you know, it shows that you were committed, that you started something and you finished it, and then let's talk about your work experience, and that's the experience that I had.
I'm just going to say I've actually had sort of the opposite experience. In a lot of jobs, they want to make sure the people that they're getting, they don't have to explain things to, especially things that they view somewhat rudimentary. So transcripts are, again, when you're coming out of school, there's very little to differentiate yourself from people you're competing with for positions. So in my experience, you know, the one thing they do look at, especially initially, and I've noticed it in terms of even like hiring interns and things along those lines now, there's a lot more dependence on grades because it is so difficult to get any actual experience. That said, someone who has straight A's across the board tends to be somewhat of a red flag, because while you want people who are overachievers, you want someone who actually is socially functional and can fit into an office atmosphere, because there are very few jobs where you operate in a vacuum on your own. You need to be able to work in. So while the grades may be sort of the first threshold, I know more in like the finance world, it's along those lines, especially like in the investment side. But then it's sort of a fit. So I do think that there is, at least in my experience.
Yeah, when I came out of law school, there wasn't enough articling positions for all the students that were graduating. So the first cutoff is marks, no question. If you wanted to be a Bay Street lawyer, you had to be in the top 10% of your class, or you weren't going to even get an interview. Now, he's right, there's going to be other considerations, but if you wanted that career, you better be in the top 10%. And then after that, you still needed to be in the top 25% or thereabouts to be able to land a reasonable position outside of Toronto. So marks were paramount when I came out, and there were lots of my colleagues who graduated from law school who never practiced law because they couldn't find a job.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add?
Well, I guess to echo what's been said, like Jeremy, I mean, I had a heartbeat, so I got a job at the time. As far as I know, I had to provide a transcript, but I was already in. But that's dinosaur days, that's all behind us, because I've been on the other side now recruiting, and yes, grades are important. They are important. And straight A's probably are a red flag. And there are other things to look at as well. Summer job experience, what kind of internships have they done? What have they done? What's behind them? And then how do they interview? But grades are definitely a key item for recruiting. So yeah, keep working.
Okay. In the not-for-profit, is it different?
No, it's no different. We're fishing the same pond, or we're trying to recruit from the same pool.
Right.
But personally, for me, grades were important in that I wanted to be the first black governor of the Bank of Canada, basically. When in my final year in economics, that's the only job. If I was working in the not-for-profit sector, that's the only other job I wanted at the time. Right? And so I was really interested in like international monetary economics and all of that type of stuff, and interest rates and bank rates and exchange rates and all of that good stuff, right? And so for that, I really studied hard and tried to ace those courses because that's where I wanted to go. Once I realized I wasn't going to work for the Bank of Canada or become the governor of the Bank of Canada, I went for Plan B, and which was my part-time job, had taken me into the company, and I just started moving up from there. So at that point, grades were not important. It was more attitude and aptitude. And as I said, I started basically as a clerk, and I left 15 years later as a director. So, you know, I don't think I'd written a resume in the first 15 years of that time.
I'm actually on the job hunt again. After 6 years, I've left the bank, and I'm I'm in your shoes, and the best thing to do to prepare for a job interview, they have a career workshop here that talks to you about the style of interviews that they have, which are typically behavioral. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the STAR method, where you answer the question in terms of setting the stage for a situation, explain the task, right, and then the action that you took and the resolution, right? So if you can come up with 30-second to 2-minute answers that describe the skill set based on the position that you're applying for, that's the greatest way to prepare. Keep in mind that in academia and in the Career Center, they train us for a very professional business world that isn't exactly as professional as I had imagined it. A lot of the interviewers have different styles. So sometimes I walk in with an arsenal of behavioral style answers, and we talk for 30, 45 minutes, right? And if they like me, if they see that I can kind of do what they're looking to do, right? Because at the end of the day, it's relationship. Certain skills can be taught, but can you be part of their team and help them achieve their goals rather than be a burden or a liability, right? The other thing is it's very, very important to know the role that you're applying for, know the organization, demonstrate that you've gone the extra mile. If you know who you're interviewing with, check out their LinkedIn page, right? Get to know about their experience a little bit. They'll be able to tell that you looked them up on LinkedIn because there's the breadcrumbs, right? Also, if you know the job description and you know the skill set, have questions prepared, right? When they say at the end of the interview, do you have any questions for me? Make sure that you have good questions that weren't covered in the dialogue, right? Because that's the last thing that they're gonna remember about you is those questions that you brought to their attention, right? And I always like to assumptive close, right? So when can I start? You know, that's a nice way. When would you like me to start? That sort of thing. Because it gets a little chuckle. It demonstrates, you know, there's a real person on the other side of the interview. With that, I'll pass.
Go ahead.
I can tell you. When it comes to interviewing interns and interviewing sort of entry-level positions, the two sort of pieces of advice that I can say, number one, be enthusiastic. If you don't feel enthusiastic about the job, then why would they want to hire you? You know, do your research on the company, whether or not it's a position you necessarily want, you may like the company, or you can see how this fits into sort of your grander plan that you really don't have much of an idea in because you have no idea of a plan, because you have no experience or anything like that, and that's one of the things that will come up. But it's just having an enthusiasm, because enthusiasm is infectious, and it comes through, and it shows that on top of being capable, which again, there'll be questions where they probe that, and they'll check your resume to make sure, okay, well, you've taken these courses or what have you, but having an enthusiasm for what you're doing is a very big positive. But I think the absolute most important thing, and I'm trying to think how to phrase this because I shouldn't use the word, don't bull poo when you're having a conversation with your interviewer. In the event you don't know something that they ask you a question about, do not dig yourself into a hole and try and make something else up. Because more often than not, the person across the desk knows the topic a lot better than you do. In my experience, it is a lot better. It is a lot for the person applying for the position to make the comment that, to be honest, I don't know this off the top of my head, but I have the experience in this and I'm willing to look it up and I know how to go about finding the answer. Because when you have an interview, a lot of the time, they're gonna lead questions and then they'll be silent for a little bit to see if you'll keep talking. And what they're doing is really just testing if you're gonna dig yourself into a hole and if you actually have an idea of what you're talking about. Because chances are, if you don't have an idea, it's evident very, very quickly. And by talking more about it, that's not actually helping your case.
Yeah. I think your question was a little misdirected, actually. To ask the people who are currently interviewing is probably the wrong thing. You should be asking the people like me who hire you. Because I'll do the hiring, I won't be interviewing. I've hired and fired upwards of 40 people over the course of my recent career. So, those are the people you should be asking the questions of. And in terms of interviewing, when I interviewed at Nortel, I had 17 different interviews in the space of 3 days. You can't be prepared for all of that. You have to show what you believe in. You have to show your personality. And they're looking for as much how do you fit with us as how much knowledge you have. So there's in an interview, I'm always concerned or wanting to find out, does the person on the other side have a personality? I'm not looking for a machine. I'm not looking for somebody just going to give me a yes or no answer. I want an interactive discussion. I want to know the person is going to be part of my team, and that we have a rapport beyond what the job is. So it's more than that. And the interviews, you have no idea where it's going to go. I had one interview, lasted 3.5 hours, finished with go home and take this psychological test online, and then by this time next week, do a presentation on what your first 90 days will look like if you get this job. And at that time, I had lost all my staff at Nortel, had to still continue to do my Nortel job, and had to prepare a presentation to take to the full board on what I was going to do in the first 90 days. And had to do, so you have no idea where an interview is going to take you. You have to be flexible, but show your true colors. You have to. There's no good in hiding behind sort of passive answers. Be yourself.
Be polite, please and thank you. Be you, and send a follow-up email to thank them at the end.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right?
That can make
It
a
means
big
a lot to
difference.
the guy that sat with you on the other side. And it just might give you an edge that somebody else doesn't get because they didn't bother to do that.
But check your grammar and your spelling. When you do that. I can't tell you. I hired. There was a person who I was ready to hire who sent a thank you note afterwards, and grammatically it was incorrect, and there were spelling mistakes.
Yeah, so he's out.
And
also,
they would, if they had not sent the thank you note, they would have gotten the job.
and also on
honest.
I've heard stories of people who they'll say thank you and I look forward to working at your company, but they do a form letter and they don't change the name of the company. So on top of checking grammar, make sure the content is actually what you're wanting. Because again, I know somebody who was in line to get a job, he looks forward to working at your firm, put the wrong firm in, and hey, look, the offer was withdrawn.
Those are really good tidbits there. But I think enthusiasm, show enthusiasm, and and honesty, because you're not expected to be an expert on day one. So there's no point. If you're asked a question, just like David said, if you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer, and be polite. Said you don't know the answer, but you can research it, and you'd like an opportunity to pursue it if you're given the opportunity, right? So, but just show some enthusiasm. Just don't, and get outside of the comfort of the interview. I've employed folks because they were talking about cricket or hockey or something like that, and because you're an interview, which means that you meet the basic standards, right? You're just one of 10, one of 15, right? So what differentiates you from the other guy? That's basically what we're looking for.
Right. Like David was saying, they want to know that they can work with you in an office environment.
Of course,
right?
if a guy didn't know the score, when the last time the Raptors won, how can you?
Priorities, man. Priorities.